All right, hello year nines. I know it's a little bit dark in here, but it's the best I could do to make sure you could see the board. But today we're going to do a quick intro to how do we convert between different distances, areas, and cubic volumes. So let's go into it. So the goals are we're going to review how to convert distances. King Henry died by drinking chocolate milk. Then we're going to learn that to review/learn how do we convert between different areas. And finally, we're going to review/learn how do we convert between different volumes. And we'll just jump right into it. So this table reminds you how do we convert using King Henry. King Henry died, base unit, which if we're looking at distance would be meters. So by drinking chocolate milk, so we have kilometer, hectometer, decameter, meter, decimeter, centimeter, and millimeter. So this is how we convert with distances. And we've learned that if you're working your way down this chart, so if I have kilometers and I want to convert to, let's say, decimeters, working your way down the chart, we multiply by 10 each time. And I know this is a bit tedious, but really just want to emphasize going from a bigger unit, converting to a smaller unit, we multiply by 10 each time because there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, 10 centimeters in a decimeter, etc., etc. Now, working the other direction, if we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit, we're going to divide by 10 each time. And hopefully this is refreshing our memories a bit. So if I have 3,000 meters and I want to know what is that in kilometers, we can divide by 10 once, twice, and 3 times. This is a nice little cheat sheet for converting distances. Now in this section of the textbook, we're going to be asked to convert areas. So I know you can't really read this because of that light, but this says converting with areas. Area is squared. So just to show, that means at the top here, we're still using King Henry. So this is going to be kilometers squared to represent area, 1 square kilometer. And I'm going to move this over a little bit so it's not in the light. Let's try it over here. Does that look better? No, that doesn't really help. Let's try again on this side. All right, you can kind of see that, so we'll go with that. So this is kilometers squared, then we have hectometers squared, then we have decameters squared, meters squared, decimeters squared, centimeters squared, and millimeters squared. But in this case, we're talking about areas. Here we were talking about lengths, distances. Now we're converting between areas. So since area is squared, we have to also square the number that we convert with. So instead of converting by multiplying by 10, we convert by 10 squared, which is 100. So now if I'm going from kilometers squared down to hectometers squared, I'm going to multiply by 100 because 10 squared is 100. So really going to emphasize this. Going from hectometers squared to decameters squared, we'll multiply by 100. Going down to meters squared, we'll multiply by 100 again. Next unit will multiply by 100. Going to centimeters squared, we'd multiply by 100. And going to millimeters squared, we would multiply by 100. Then you can probably guess, well, what happens if we're going from a smaller unit to a larger unit? Well, instead of multiplying, we'll divide. So going from millimeters squared to centimeters squared, we'll divide by 100. Again, each step we're going to divide by 100. I know this is a little bit tedious writing this out, but I just really want to emphasize this idea. And divide by 100. So when you're converting with length distances, we multiply or divide by 10. When you're converting by area, you are going to multiply or divide by 100 because area is squared. And maybe you can guess what's going to happen here. When we convert using volume, well, volume, if we have 1 cubic kilometer, that would be kilometers cubed. And then underneath that would be hectometers cubed. And then we have decameters cubed. Next is just meters cubed. then we go down to decimeters cubed, centimeters cubed, and finally millimeters cubed. And maybe you can take a guess, well, when we're converting with volume, since volume is cubed, that's a good indication or a good hint of what are we going to convert with on this side. Well, here we convert with 10. 10 squared gave me 100. What would 10 cubed give me? Well, 10 cubed is 1,000. So that means we're going to multiply or divide by 1,000 now to get from one conversion to the next. So each step we multiply by 1,000. And you've probably already guessed it, to go from a smaller unit to a larger unit when you're working with cubic meters or cubic kilometers or any of these, you're going to divide by 1,000 each time. So we'll divide by 1,000. Next step, divide by 1,000. Next step, divide by 1,000. Divide by 1,000. Divide by 1,000. And divide by 1,000. Now, these are the rules, right? But we should kind of understand what they mean. The reason here we multiply or divide by 10 is because there's 10 millimeters in a centimeter, 10 centimeters in a decimeter, 10 decimeters in a meter, etc., etc. When you're looking at area, well, with area, that means there's 100 square millimeters in 1 square centimeter. And there's 100 square centimeters in 1 square decimeter. And there's 100 decimeters squared in 1 meter squared. And we'll show that in the next video, prove that that is 100 each time. And when you look at cubes, if I have 1,000 millimeters cubed, that would give me just 1 centimeter cubed. And if I have 1,000 centimeters cubed, that would only give me 1 decimeter cubed. So there's 1,000 cubic centimeters in 1 cubic decimeter. There's 1,000 decimeters cubed in 1 meter cubed, and etc., etc. So in the next video, we'll actually prove to you that yes, with volume it's 1,000, with area it's 100, and with length it's only 10. Hopefully that made sense. Thanks for following along, and I'll see you in the next video.